Hey guys, this is D. Williams here. We are getting fired up and getting ready for this live stream. Y'all sit tight because we're coming in. Y'all know I'm bringing that fire today. So if you are watching live, I want you to do me a favor. Oh yeah, the messages are going off. I want you to do me a favor and put in the chat box where you are at, your name definitely, so I can give you a shout out, but where you're chiming in from, and let us know how you are feeling today. It is Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday. The day, oh man, the weeks are going by. I like running. The days are running like back to back. And we're getting fired up. And you know, I've been on this really, really big kick about the Corona transformation. We're going to talk about that today, but I just want to say hi. And we have a special guest. Get fired up. Get fired up. Get fired up. That's right. We have a special guest in the house, y'all. Y'all not ready. This is going to be epic. Who we got on the line? Let me go look at our comments. And Dr. Jones, you can see comments on the comment section on your panel as well. So feel free to chime in. Oh, Facebook is on fire, I see. Hello, Facebook is on fire. Where's my YouTube? Where are my Periscopers? Let me get LinkedIn up here on my phone so I can see. Y'all know I got to get that energy fired up. Ow! All right, let's see what D. Williams, y'all done got me live all day today, so y'all are in for even more of a treat. Hold on, because I want to see everybody's comments. Who are you and where are you chiming in from, honey? No. Yeah, oh, Candy, I couldn't wait to come here today. I promise you, you are all I've been thinking about. That's serious though. This is what I live for, honestly. Hold on, let me pull in live. Let me get LinkedIn here. I want to make sure that LinkedIn is live. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
I don't even see me live on LinkedIn, so I'm just verifying. Y'all, come on in the door. Come on in the door. This is what where are you at? Where are you located, Candy? Where are you at? Tell us where you are. We want to know. Let's see. Let's see who I get. Oh, yeah, there I am. Yes. What are my comments here on LinkedIn? Hey, Angela Pitter. How are you? Hey, Norman in the ATL. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, who else is here with me? Dana. Hey, Market. I love feeling blessed. Tiffany's in the house. Joan out of Connecticut. Tiffany is from Baltimore. That's my hometown. Hey, girl. Dana, loving that energy. You know we got to keep things fired up. You know I'm all about that positive energy. Hey, Cars, glad to see you here. Can't wait to see you in the April 7th class. Yeah, I'm calling you out, buddy. But so excited. Okay, so listen. I don't know if y'all have been experiencing the craziness around this coronavirus, around this COVID-19. It has been so thick in the air. Oh my gosh. I swear I had to just break up with my phone. I had to break, y'all know I sleep with my phone. So breaking up with my phone is serious, right? I just can't take another comment. I can't take another article. It's so thick. I am really, at one point, I was having panic attacks, like fearful, like, oh my gosh, if I get this thing, what's going to happen to me or my children? And I just did not know how to handle it. And y'all know that I feel all the energy that you all are sending my way. And so I was like, I've got to shake this off, and we've got to figure out a way to turn this thing into something that's positive. We've got to be able to look at things from a totally different angle. So last week I brought in a panel of ladies, and we talked about the idea of transforming the word corona into something very positive, to give it kind of a positive spin. And I'm still on that kick because y'all know I'm all about that positive life. And so I called a good friend of mine, somebody that I respect and love down to the core of my bones. I know I drove this woman crazy crazy. Like, am I going to get it? What's going to happen? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? And I said, can you come on live and talk to my people? Because I think everybody is feeling the way I am. And so she said yes. And she's here and she's amazing. And many of you all saw her post that she did. She does these personal posts, and DL Hughley reposted it, and you got fired up from that, and you felt a little more confident. So we're here to answer some major questions. Dr. Kiiyonna Jones, RN, is here from Los Angeles to give us all the information, facts, fiction, with optimism. We're talking about COVID-19. Thank you, Dr. Jones, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Dee. I sure appreciate it. And I'm glad to be on here and try to kind of take this negative and turn it into at least some sort of positive and a little bit of light for everybody. Of course, with some facts, but still trying to come from a perspective of optimism. So that's my goal.
I love it. Okay, so y'all know that I'm like fired up, ball of energy, throw it at you, bring it back. Wow, that's me. So I'm going to put it on hold for a second because I do feel like this is a serious conversation. I do feel like this is one where I need to bring the energy down just a little bit so that we can get the facts, debunk the fiction, and then when we get to the optimism part, I can get fired all up again. Okay, so you got to stay tuned because the fire is still going to be here. I'm just going to bring it down just a little bit, okay? Awesomeness. I appreciate that love. And I'm so thankful for everybody that's here. Dr. Jones, thank you so much for being here. Yes. So first question, you know, I've got a ton of questions, and actually people have been sending me messages all day with questions. So this is going to be really interesting. So I don't know if you know this. I've been talking about this for the last couple of days, but there was a nurse that was actually working at a hospital in Georgia, one of the most highly infected areas in Georgia. And in the midst of everything that was going on, she quit her job. And people have been sending me messages and asking, Dee, is it okay for me to do the same thing? Should I quit too? You know, what do you say to something like that?
Okay, so I did see that video, and I also saw the subsequent video where she kind of elaborated more and explained herself. So initially, I came from the perspective of, especially being a nurse for almost 13 years, and basically, I signed up for being a provider of care for my patients, right? So I was kind of torn initially because I was like, well, I don't like people saying you signed up to put yourself in harm's way and your family in harm's way. But I do feel like there's a lot of unspoken understanding that we have in nursing that may not have been addressed in that first video. So I had questions, and my questions were you floating to, because she said in her video, she basically said, they're trying to send me to a COVID unit. And so, and just a little bit about my background, I've worked in various capacities. I actually have been a nursing supervisor at a major hospital here in Southern California, and also a smaller community hospital with the combined total of about 6 years. So I see the organizational picture. But at the same time, I've also worked at the bedside, and I still work at the bedside on a per diem status, which is just 4 days a month, because I still like to have my hands in ground zero. And then I teach. I have a background. I currently teach, and I have been a professor at a university for 8 years. I'm sorry, it'll be 10 years this year. So I see things from a different perspective. So of course, before I even judge, I have questions, and I want to know, were you going to float to this unit? Was it your turn to float? Because in the nursing units, you know, we have to divvy up sometimes our resources because one unit may be short as opposed to the other. And so in that case, usually each unit will keep a list. And so everyone gets their turn to float. Most nurses don't like to float. It's kind of like you're not comfortable with it. It's not your home, you know. So to be fair, everyone will get their chance. So my one question was it your turn to float? And if it was your turn to float, if you didn't go, then who? That was the first question. The next question is, she emphasized, you know, I have kids, I have a family, I have no one to take care of my kids. And in my opinion, if you don't go, then that would be somebody else who has kids and who may be in a similar situation. But then when she subsequently followed up with her interview on Breakfast Club, and she was just saying, like, it seemed like it was more personal. Now, a lot of people were referring to PPE. She didn't mention PPE on her initial post. She didn't say that, they're sending me out here without any gear, asking me to fight something that is not, that puts me and my family at risk. She didn't really say that. So I didn't want to assume that that's what it was. But I do feel like, nobody prepared for this. So in this situation, this is such a unique perspective that we are all in. We can't, if everybody said, no, I'm not going, then who's going to take care of us? So it's kind of one of those things. It's like, I work in a COVID clinic. Listen, I could easily have said, okay, I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna sit back and wait till this stuff is over. I got my students over here. I'm just per diem. I have a business and which I do beauty and wellness. I could focus on other things, but I'm here because if I don't do it, then who's going to take care of my family? Who's going to take care of others' families? So I just felt like it was sensationalized, and I didn't agree with that. Even if it was a decision that she was making, that's a personal decision. So once you publicize it, I think then you open yourself to scrutiny. And that's something that and I'm not a big social media person, but I do have social media accounts, a certain private aspects of my life I just don't publicize. So I of course I came from that perspective too. Like, if that was a decision, then why choose to go ahead and make it public instead of just deciding this is your decision that you're making is for the best interest of your family? 1. 2, she talked about her being immunocompromised, which later came out in the Breakfast Club interview that she's a cancer survivor. And what I want to say to that is any situation, whether COVID-19 exists or not, you put yourself in a position when you're working at ground zero at the bedside where you could potentially be exposed to infectious diseases. So if you're immunocompromised, that's something that should be considered regardless if it's COVID-19 or not, if that makes sense. So I look at all of those perspectives, and that's just kind of my take on it. But I didn't want to judge her because, like I said, this is not, this is where the strong is going to come out. Okay. And I consider myself a soldier. And so I speak positivity over myself and over my family, and I pray, but I also know if I don't, then who?
We're going to get in. I want to add to Dr. Jones's response. We had someone, Wanda Petty, chimed in. She says, we do it all the time in the military, all the time. Sign up, put ourselves in harm's way. The truth. And it's a choice, nothing new. So why is it that people aren't seeing medical personnel are in the same position? Thank you for serving. Awesome. I concur with that.
It just becomes that now it's like, okay, you didn't go, so your colleague is now going.
Right.
Somebody has to go. So I get that even the PPE situation, I know you're going to cover that, so I'm not going to talk about it. So I just, Wanda, you and I are in agreement. Listen, we soldiers. And I didn't get into this for the money. I came into it because I care about people. And so that means that there are some ugly times in nursing, but I can't quit because of it,
Definitely. My 2 cents on that, and y'all heard me talk about it earlier today, is that the internet cannot be deleted. You're leaving a paper trail. If you are frustrated, you have anxiety, you have fear about what's going on around you, first thing that I would say is partner with someone. I have a circle right now that if I got out of whack, I could call a few people and say, oh my gosh, I'm fired up. And they would check me immediately if I was to say that I was about to do something that would detriment my brand. 1, 2, one of my colleagues told me that she would have been clicking my phone every second so I couldn't get the live out, which I loved. So I thought that was great. And just remember that me being a recruiting professional, one of the first things that we do when we're looking to hire people, I do look for them on social media to make sure that I'm not placing someone who's dangerous or who can compromise the goals and the ethics and all of those things with the company that I'm matching them with. So in real life, if I would have found her and wouldn't have known anything about her, when I was ready to submit her to my company or my client, I would have hit Google. And if I would have seen it, I would have dismissed it, right? I would have dismissed her, meaning would not have presented her to my client. So I think there's a lot of, we've got to be very careful about how we're managing our emotions and our feelings during a time of high levels of stress. That's where I wanted to get with that. We won't beat the dead horse or whatever, but people are really talking about this and they're asking and they're wanting to know, like, Dee, how do we handle something like this? All right. So Wanda says here, we must also be responsible for what we're putting out in the world. How are our make others feel when leadership matters. Say that again. High five.
Yes, Wanda. Yes. Girl, you on it. That is my exact perspective. And I think that's why Dee have me on here, because in spite of all the negativity that's out there, I just choose to focus on positive, because what's the alternative? Let's go ahead. Focus on it.
Let's get to the big question in the room. This is the big question that everybody's asking. What the heck is COVID-19 exactly? Don't give me the crazy stuff. Dr. Jones, tell us exactly what it is so we can know how to handle this thing.
All right. So first, I'm going to start off by saying this COVID virus, we are learning more and more about it every single day, and it's changing. And with that, of course, the perspective of professionals are changing. When this first was identified, it was pronounced and presented to us as a virus. The research, everything supported it. It's a virus like the influenza virus. We have so many tens of thousands of people in the US who die annually from the influenza virus. This virus is similar to that. But what we have found out in these few weeks and months that have passed since we knew about the virus is that this virus is a little bit different in that it's more infectious. In fact, it's highly infectious. And it's really, really something that older people and people who are from vulnerable populations, meaning if they have like COPD, congestive heart failure, other cardio or respiratory chronic diseases, they're more at risk from contracting the disease, but also from having negative outcomes from the disease, even up to death. So it's funny because when I first started talking about it, because I just saw so much negativity and I was doing my research and I was telling my husband, I said, it's something we're missing, because the way that I'm looking at the World Health Organization, the Center for Disease Control, and I'm like, it's something they're not telling us about this virus. Well, come to find out, the characteristics of it are a little bit differently. It causes like a lot of mucus to build up in our lungs, and the mucus, the best way I could describe it in layman's terms, is it kind of clogs up our lungs. And if you don't have good lungs that can kind of expectorate or cough it up, then it could lead to you basically not getting enough oxygen and then having respiratory failure, ultimately resulting in all your organ failure. And then that's what happens to people who actually die from it. However, it is important to note that this virus, people are talking about like the myths of it. You see people on Instagram and they have this meme and they're like, they've been knew about this virus. And then they show on the back of the Clorox, like, or Lysol, like it says kills coronavirus. And I just want to clarify that the coronavirus are a group of viruses. Okay. Common ones that we know about is like SARS. Remember back in like 2002 or 3, that was a big outbreak. It really was in Hong Kong and China. It didn't too much come here, but it was a big concern because the death rate was about 13%, which is pretty significant. And then the next one is one we call MERS, which is like Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. That one had a higher death rate of about 30%, but that also is a type of coronavirus. This one is a new virus. It actually has not been around. That's why it's called the novel, meaning new coronavirus. And so we're learning about it and its characteristics. A lot of them are similar to other coronaviruses, but this one is new. So we're learning a lot about it. And that's why if you see in the news, there's a lot of like changes. Like they'll say one thing 1 minute and then the next. That's because the data is coming in, and more of the data that's coming in, that's kind of forming how we respond to this virus and certain and precautions that we advise the public to take. So it is a virus. And as most people would know, just like a cold and just like the flu, there's actually no cure. However, we do treat symptoms. And so that's the virus in a nutshell. I hope I explained it good enough.
Definitely. And so I want you all to put your questions in the box, first of all. I want you to put your questions in a box because I have a list of questions that I've been collecting, but I can't read your minds, and neither can Dr. Jones. And as you can tell, she's very patient with us because I know I was asking the dumbest questions when I and I was like, oh, thank God for her patience. So don't think no question is a dumb question.
No, listen, I tell my students all the time, if you ask it, 10 other people were thinking it. Just go ahead and ask.
So I have probably the craziest one. Okay, so that's great to know that. So we understand kind of like what the virus is. We know that it really, this particular strain, I guess, of the virus hasn't been around since 1950s. Brand new.
Yeah, so the coronavirus actually is like a family of viruses, right? When I talked to you about it, I said, think about a family of the Johnsons, and the Johnsons just had a new baby. That's what the coronavirus is. Okay. So it hasn't been around since the 1950s. In fact, it just was discovered in 2019. So that's why it's called COVID, coronavirus disease 19. It was just discovered in 2019. Yeah.
Okay. So that's
in animals. It hopped and started being able to be transferred to humans. So it
say that again. Repeat that again.
It started in animals, and it hopped the animal species to start being transfer to humans, and so now it's contagious to humans. It was around before, but it hopped. It mutated. And that's how it's able to be infectious and transferred from human to human.
The fact that it mutates, though, does that make it an intelligent kind of an intelligent virus?
All microorganisms are intelligent. That's how they're able to survive. Have you heard of a MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus? It's another type. You would have heard MRSA, right? Like people talking about MRSA. Oh my God, MRSA. The gyms. It was like such a big deal. That's because it mutated. This particular, this is a bacteria I'm referring to, but this particular bacteria got smart. It mutated and it changed. So all the other antibiotics that we were treating it with, now it doesn't work. It's resistant to it because it mutates.
Wow.
So it literally mutates. All microorganisms do that. Some a lot faster than others. Yeah.
Okay. So would you say that this one is mutating faster than some of the others?
So there has been some mutation noted in research, and it just got discovered in 2019. So the answer to your question is yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, that's perfect to know. Okay. So if you're watching this right now, do me a favor and share this live feed with someone, because we want everyone to be informed on what's happening. Okay. So please share it. Also do me a favor and like this, because the more you like it, the more my ego gets happy, and I'll keep bringing more people on and giving you good content. Okay. All good stuff. We have, someone asked, can I drink a Corona beer? LOL.
I think you're safe with that.
I think you're safe with that. How can it jump? The question is, was it from eating the animal that housed it, or simply being near the animal can cause it?
So as you know, the epicenter was in Wuhan, China, right? And so they still don't know if it was the person ate the animal or if it just hopped from being around the animal. That's still out. So I don't have the answer to that. We just know that where the epicenter is, and then we know that it was found in other animals. Okay. And at that area. So that's all we have for that. We don't really know if they were actually eating the animal. I don't know. We don't have the answer to that yet.
Everybody has their own taste buds. We are not to judge. However,
I know, exactly.
However, hold on. I'm going to go over LinkedIn here. I don't want to miss anybody on LinkedIn. Any questions on LinkedIn? The floor is yours. Okay, here's a question. Is there a way that a person can have it and not show symptoms?
Absolutely. If you guys know, one of the big publicized celebrities was Idris Elba. He actually explained that he had it, and he didn't have any symptoms. Some of our basketball players actually had contracted it and had no symptoms. So it's definitely possible, which makes this virus more concerning, because you could actually be infectious and not know it and potentially infect someone who is vulnerable. So that's why it's so concerning, because there are so many different displays of people. Some people don't have any symptoms and others do. So that's why it's like everyone's going crazy and trying to kind of figure it out. But this one is kind of being smart. So we're not able to totally characterize it necessarily like other viruses.
Dr. Jones, you explained something to me on the phone the other day. You talked about, like, if you're in a room with 10 people and you have the flu, this is how it contracts. But if you have corona, can you explain that to them?
I was just saying that. So I was saying, if you have a room of 10 people and one has like the regular influenza virus, the chance of those other 9 people getting it is really slim. Like one person might come out with it, but in fact, you may have a room where actually no one comes out with it. But if someone is infected with the coronavirus, you have a chance of 3, 4, 5 people even leaving with the disease, because it's highly infectious. And what we call that in like science and nursing is called virulence. Like it really is infectious. So that's why it's so important that people are, protecting themselves and maintaining that distance, because you can really get it. Like, and what the research has out there is like, when people contract it, they feel it like pretty soon. The guidelines is from 2 to 14 days. But what we're finding is that a lot of people who have contracted it are literally feeling it within 2 to 4 days. From the time they feel they are exposed to it, like 2 to 4 days, they're like feeling it, like, muscle aches, chest pain, headache, cough, all the above. So it's really infectious. It's really infectious. Yeah.
Okay, which is why they're telling everybody to stay your tails at the house.
Yeah.
House, right? That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to dive into something that I saw online the other day. I'm going to share my screen here really quickly. Here on Twitter, Diddy, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, whatever you want to call him these days, he put a message out on his Twitter feed. He said, this message is for all of the healthcare workers out on the front lines. I'd love to hear directly from you guys on what you need most to help. And for everyone else, if you could help retweet this message. He got 10,000 retweets, tons of messages. I read every tweet that day that came out. The people were responding. And one of the biggest things that people talked about that was needed in hospitals all across the country, maybe even the globe, were PPE, PPE. Now, me being Dee Williams, I didn't know what PPE was. I'm not a healthcare professional. Can you tell us, like, what is PPE, in the hospital? What does that mean? What is that?
So PPE is personal protective equipment. And basically it's what we use to help keep us safe, especially when we are, taking care of the public. So even more so with people who have highly infectious diseases like tuberculosis, if they have influenza, if they have varicella, which is like chickenpox, if they have, a lot of infectious diseases, we use personal protective equipment to keep us safe so that we won't take it home to our families. Now, you have to keep in mind, the best way like I said in the beginning of this, of our live, we weren't ready for this. We weren't expecting it. So hospitals didn't prepare. They had the normal par that they usually have, flu season probably picks up a little more because of the influenza virus. And so they weren't ready. And so now you have a situation where, of course, the local and state governments are involved. Our federal government is involved trying to find personal protective equipment. I will say to you, it varies per state, per organization, how short they are. I'll say that because from what I understand, local governments, for example, states are bidding now on personal protective equipment to try to get, and it goes to the highest bidder. So it's really so it's really an unfortunate circumstance. The government is trying to get more, they're trying, but you know, it's one of those situations we weren't ready. So the first thing people want to do is blame. And I come from a perspective of solution-oriented perspective, because blaming will get us nowhere. So the real question becomes, what can we do now? Right? So it's not just about whose fault is it, you know, who quit this, who stopped that, but it's really about how do we deal with this now with what we have? Because the virus is here. So we can recap later. But right now, how do we keep our healthcare people safe? That's the real question.
This is a very valid question, Dr. Joe. We talked about this. Carr said, I had pneumonia real bad in January, right before Corona boom, was in the hospital for a week. What can we do for preventative measures? Also, we talked about a lot of people saying that they felt sick in October, November, December, January. They're asking me all the time, Dee, did I have the coronavirus then and didn't know it? And can I get it again if I already had it before? Does my body build out antibodies?
Yeah. So I have a couple of responses to that. A research one and then a non-research one. Let me answer Carson's question though. The best way we can prevent it is just making sure we do our social distancing. Okay, we have to look at it from this perspective. It's a virus. It can only be spread if we spread it. So then we kind of have to do some reverse engineering. How can we not spread it, right? Because it can't live if, you know, somebody over there have it and they don't have access to me for me to contract it. It can't live alone. It has to have a host. So the question is, how can we prevent it from being spread? That's the real question, right? That's the preventive measures. Like, how can we prevent it from being spread from person to person to person? And the only way we can do that, and I know you guys are tired of hearing it, but it is the absolute truth, is hand washing and social distancing and staying our butts at home unless you have to be out for work, which is, you know, one of those necessary jobs. If you don't have that, you need to be at home. You need to practice hand washing, and you need to make sure that you are distancing yourself. Yesterday, the president said, everybody wear masks now, even if it's just a cloth mask, whatever it is. Makes sense, because that at least puts some kind of filter, even though it's not scientifically proven. It's shown that it improves, but it's not scientifically proven whether it's going to prevent it. But like I said on one of my other my stories, I said something is better than nothing. You know, we just have to make sure we're using them appropriately. So the main thing is just, like I said, in my home, because I am a nurse and I am exposed a lot, I go out, but I have certain protective measures for my family when I come in. I don't bring any of the clothes, any of the shoes in the house. I throw them straight in the laundry, hop straight to the shower when I get home. Before I even touch my door, I use my hand sanitizer. Going outside of other than work, I have a 23-year-old daughter. She goes and does our errands as far as like grocery shopping and stuff like that, so that I won't increase our risk for exposure, right? So she's the one that'll run the errands. She has her mask. She uses her hand sanitizer, and she comes home. No outside company at my house. I love you, but we're going to have to FaceTime, because I don't know who you've been around and who they've been around and who they've been around. So I preach that in my family. And as much as I miss my family, I'm doing this for them. And we have to uphold those guidelines in order to slow and stop the spread of this disease. Cars, I hope that answered your question.
Okay.
The second part.
Yes.
The second part, sorry. What was the second part?
The second part, people think that they may have already contracted the virus earlier before it was ever put out that the virus existed. Is that possible?
It is definitely possible, because it was originally discovered, they're saying in December in China, but other things that I've read says it was even far back as October or even earlier. So the jury's still out on that. Do you develop antibodies? The answer is yes. Is it possible that you can contract it again? The answer so far, based on the research, is yes. We don't know enough about it. They have saw a spike in incidents, and being that China is the epicenter, that's really all the research I have to read from. So I will say this is based on the research that's from China, is that people saw a spike. So it went down, right? And we all know that they talked about it on the news. And then they're saying that some people were reinfected with it. So now we didn't know, we're learning. Initially, it was like, just like the flu. If you get it once, you're good. Like you went ahead and got it and got over with it. So you're good. Now they're saying, oh, wait, hold up. Maybe not. you may be reinfected. But they are also, the research says that there is antibodies. So there's other possible treatments that they're considering, which is like what they basically do is somebody who was infected, pull your antibodies and try to use it to treat other people who have, of course, the same type. It's a little more technical, but the bottom line is they try to use their antibodies to treat people who are really sick to try to fight the disease, right? To use those antibodies to help somebody who is really sick in fighting the disease. So they're also studying that. The jury's still out. That's what I can tell you. It's just so new that, you know, it's changing every day. So I am telling you stuff that I'm reading and from highly reputable scholarly journals, mind you, about the virus. But then also I'm also reading about cases where people are being reinfected. So the jury's still out. We're still learning about the virus. What I can tell you though, we didn't really start testing right away. So if you look on, I don't know if you know about this, Dee, we actually didn't talk about this, but Johns Hopkins has a little tracker for the coronavirus, right? And so if you see our curve for the US kind of goes like straight and then it peaks up. Well, that's because we weren't testing. So now we're testing and we have more testing available. So of course it's peaking up because now we're testing. So also people who may have had it, like Cars, if he went to get tested, he's probably going to test positive, even though he's not symptomatic anymore. He's already had it, it's passed. So those people are also included in that group when we're, you know, going up.
Oh, but those people, but aren't those, doesn't that make the numbers kind of inaccurate though? Because if they've already had it,
yeah, so if they've already had it, it depends on how long, because again, the window is between 2 to 14 days where they're saying possibly. So if you had it for the first 5 days and then, you know, you could, even though your symptoms may be mild or you may feel better, you may still be infectious. So
wow, and can still pass it on.
Infectious, meaning somebody else can still get it from you. So.
Right. You answered a great question on LinkedIn. Someone asked, how long does it take? Taquita White, thanks Taquita for being here. How long does it take? How long does it last if it's contracted? That was the actual question.
You know, Taquita, it all depends. Okay, this is what I want people to, and I try to relay this on my lives also, is that you have a human component. And anytime we provide any information, it's a generalization, and you will always have outliers in that. So there's people who are going to fit right into that mold just perfectly, and there's others who's not going to fit. They may have like just a little ache, and they're like, "Oh, I had an ache, but I'm okay," and couldn't find out they had it. And then you might have somebody who went into respiratory failure, who's in ICU, who also had it. So what science and research does is try to get a broad general overview and make generalizations based on what's out there. So I can't tell you specifically how long. I can only tell you generally from the time of contracted, it's about you contract it or you catch it, right? Is 2 to 14 days. And within a couple of days, you usually would start feeling symptoms. However, there are some people who don't feel anything for 10 to 13 days. It just depends, but that's the general rule.
That's the general rule. Next question, are PPE effective in not contracting the virus?
Well, since I work at a large organization, healthcare system here in Southern California, and I can say I've been exposed to a lot of people who have COVID, and so far I'm okay. I think.
Okay, so
I would say they're effective. See now, okay, here's the thing. We didn't know before. So because we didn't know, especially as healthcare professionals, we may have been exposed to it and had no idea, because the first thing we'll do is say they may have the flu. Once we find out they don't have the flu, we're like, oh, okay, they just got a cold, or they just have, or, whatever it is. So now that we know, we pretty much should be, and this goes to the lay public too, you should be treating everybody like they have it. That's how you should distance yourself. That's how because you just don't know. So now, in order to slow and stop the spread, we should be treating everybody like they have it. And that's how I move about my day. Even if I'm not at the hospital, which most cases I'm just going there and home, but I treat them the same way, because you just don't know.
You just don't know. That's good to know. I saw a post today from one of my clients. I won't mention her name and I won't show the post. She said, let's assume we've all been exposed to this virus. Tell me, what can I do to keep from dying? Forget the politics and the FDA and what's going to help me? Natural, pharmaceutical, vitamins, herbs, tinctures, oils, pills. I don't want to hear nothing else about social distancing. People have been home and they still sick. What do we do?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm about to, what's her name? Oh, you can't say her name. Okay. So
Andrea is her name.
Tell you.
Andrea is her name and she's amazing.
Okay. I'm so Adrian. You said Adria, I'm sorry to tell you what I'm about to tell you. It's the same thing I already said, and it is the truth. If you get it, then the best thing for you to do is work on your symptoms, work on your rest. You have to think about your body has an internal set of its own military, its own soldiers who are fighting for you. And in order for them to fight for you, you have to be in optimal condition. Okay. You have to create an ideal environment for them to succeed in that war. Okay. And so in order to do that, you have to take care of you. That's the only thing I can tell you aside of social distancing is just make sure that you have done your part with your temple to make sure that those soldiers can fight that virus for you, because that's all it is. Your immune system has to be intact in order to fight it. That's the main thing. I don't have it. I'm sorry.
No, that's very true. And there's a show on Netflix that you all should check out. It's called Cells at Work. It's an animated cartoon, actually, but it talks about your cell and it describes that. So she's on point. Your white blood cells and your red blood cells are in there fighting the war against the disease that comes in. And it's a really amazing show. Something definitely for you all to watch. Netflix. I know I'll tag y'all. I'm giving y'all some love, okay? For my Netflix family. Okay, awesome. Wanda asked, how relevant is vitamin C? And then I've got another question right after.
So, Wanda, vitamin C, okay, I also have a business where I do IV hydration, vitamin IV hydration and injection. So I do know about I'm going to say off-label therapies that people use, especially vitamins. Vitamin C is something that a lot of people swear by when it comes to like the flu and colds and things like that. The research doesn't support it. However, listen, the research doesn't support a lot of things that Grandma talked about that was right. I will say that. So the research doesn't say, it may help. It may help, but it doesn't. From a scientific perspective, we don't have enough evidence to support the use of vitamin C. But Grandma not wrong. I just want y'all to know that. Grandma knows what she's talking about.
Oli said, Doctor, you're amazing.
Thank you.
The movie on Netflix is called Cells at Work, CELLS at Work. I've got a question. I heard through the grapevine that as the temperature changes, that the virus can no longer live. 3 days straight here in Atlanta before yesterday, the weather was 84 degrees.
Yeah.
Nobody was doing social distancing at all. The ice cream parlor around the corner when I went to the grocery store was 40 people deep, packed around the corner. And, people they knocked over the signs at the park that said, do not enter. So if the temperature rises, will this disease or this virus, vanish? And then if so, will it emerge again when the weather goes back down?
So typically viruses have like ebbs and flows, right? Just like we know from the influenza virus, soon as the winter time starts coming, it spikes, right? And then it goes down in the summer. However, being that this is such a novice virus, we can't support that. I can't say that for sure because we haven't had a summer with it. So again, this virus, the characteristics, some of them are a lot different. So I can't say that it's going to go down when the weather is warm because we just don't know, because we haven't had the virus in our environment when the weather was warm. So I can't say that. I hope it does though.
Because then we'll be on house arrest.
I know. I hope it does. But
these
I
folks
really
out here are not practicing any type of social distancing.
Yeah, no, that's unfortunate though, because the thing is, what I talk about with that is that it's really hard for us as a society, because if you don't feel like you're at risk for it, because typically, if you're healthy and you are younger, then you're not at risk. It's really hard for people who live in a society that's so self-absorbed to try to think about your fellow man, because that is what we perpetuated in our environment. So now we're trying to tell people to think about others, and people are having a hard time doing it. So I tell my family, I'm like, look, it's not about you. It's not, the younger, it's not about you. It's, and you could potentially succumb to it, but the chance is a lot lower. Your risk is a lot lower than someone who is older. But we have older people in our family who we have to be accountable for. So do you want that on your heart, that you were the reason why someone contracted it because you insisted on going out? Like, we have to think about things like that. But that's, I think, a society issue, right? So now we have to start digging deep in our own issues, because we've been so isolated and we've always just had to worry about ourselves, where now you have to look out for your fellow man. So it really changes perspective.
Look out for your fellow man. If you're just chiming in, I am here with Dr. Kiiyonna Jones, who is here talking about COVID-19. We're talking about the facts. We're talking about fiction and optimism. One of the things that I definitely want you to do is to take a moment and share this video. Share it right now. We want to get people on here as getting their questions answered, so we can kind of cut the fear out of the air. And that's important. Also, if you like this video, please like it, thumbs up, let us know so that we can continue to deliver more content this way. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit the bell so you can get all the updates as I get them out. Couple of questions. Dr. Jones, they love you, just so you know.
I love you guys too.
Ars asked, can you give us your business info on IVs, doctor?
My business info. Okay. I think you want how to reach me.
They want to know, like, I guess you want to do, is it through Lux Beauty or?
It's Lux. So my website is www.luxebeautyandwellness.com. I also have an Instagram page, which is Lux LUXE Beauty and Wellness. That's my business. I don't know if you're in LA though. I can't do them virtually, so
you gotta be in LA, right? You gotta be in LA. That's so funny. I am so glad you're here. Share this, Lacey. I want your whole tribe. Lacey's got a beautiful tribe. I want your whole tribe to be informed and to understand what's going on here. You know, I love you. Trudy,
really quick, can I just, you touched on something that I wanted to address, which was about fear. And I feel like a lot of the fear people have is because there's so much inconsistencies out there. And when you do look at the news and when you do look at the radio, when you do look at the TV and you do look at social media, it's just so much negativity perpetuated. And really people want to know, well, what does that look like down the line? Like, what are we doing now? How is it going to get better? People need that. And so the whole point of me like coming on and opening up, because Dee will tell you I'm not big at social media, but I just feel like people need to hear something good. And so I make it my business to sift through all the research to tell people what's out there good. Like, what can we talk about that's good? Like, what the trajectory looks like for us. Because the way they have it on social media and the news is we all about to die.
That was my final question, though, Dr. Jones. My final question, like, come on now. Is it true that we all gonna die from this thing? Or can we have odds that if we contract it, that we will live, that we will, because people are saying really weird things. They're like, okay, I have one client in particular who told me the other night on the live, he said this virus is a hoax because people are only dying in the hospital and they're not dying at home. I don't believe it's real. So like, it's come on, Dr. Jones, how?
See, it's people like that, especially as a healthcare professional. Okay. When we think about it in practical terms, my dad, I'm gonna use him because he won't mind. he always say, I know I'm not going to the hospital because people go there to die. It's like, no, sick people go there and sick people have an increased risk for dying. That's different than saying, oh, people go there to die. So yes, people who have coronavirus, once they're admitted to the hospital, that must mean they're really sick. So if they're really sick, that increases their chance for mortality. So yes, they most likely will be in the hospital because they had a symptom that was severe, and usually it's respiratory for the COVID. So it's not that people only die in the hospital, but they should, because they shouldn't have let themselves get so sick where they die in their house. Like, they should be going to the hospital if they get to the point where it's so bad they're not able to breathe or the symptoms are so severe that they need to go to the hospital. So if they don't make it, or if we're not able to treat them or prevent them from taking the road that we don't want anybody to go to, then they're going to be at the hospital when it happens.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Yeah,
I don't know other than that.
I've heard so many things. I've heard Black people can't get it. I've heard Indian people can't get it. I've heard Africans can't get it. I heard young people can't get it. Old people can't get it. I mean, there's so many like different things out there. You just like my nephew came. He said, "Auntie, don't worry about it. You so chocolate. You will never get it." I said, "Honey, I don't think that's true."
Unfortunately, the research does not support melanin as being one of the protective. It would be nice. I like that, but no.
For the people who are questioning it, I ain't worried. I'm good. Okay, couple more questions. Tiffany said, Latasha said, does hot lemon water work? They're saying citrus, onions, and garlic steam are helping your nasal cavity. It sounds like a recipe to get rid of what is those vampires, but go ahead. What's going on with that?
Think she's talking about like a lavage. People who have like sinus problems, they will use the lavage and it'll kind of clear out. That has scientifically been proven to help when they have sinus issues. There is no support for lemon and garlic. However, again, grandma can't be wrong. I mean, I don't want to say I'm coming on here from a scientific perspective. That doesn't mean if somebody in my family got sick, I wouldn't load them up in vitamin C. I wouldn't load them up with lemon, garlic, everything. Right. But from a scientific perspective, it just doesn't support it. That's I can say. Yeah. We still don't know. We still have so much to learn about this virus. So
here's another one. Tiffany asks, how effective is activated charcoal in removing the virus? I've heard that it is really good for detoxing the body.
So yeah, that's one of those herbalistic approaches. And I can say that from a scientific perspective, that hasn't been supported, but it is known to make the environment of this is general. This is not related to COVID. This is just a general response. It has been shown to make the environment, your internal environment, such that it doesn't support the growth of outside organisms. I'll say that. Really? But I don't know about the virus. Again, things like that, we don't know. It's just so new. But I would just tell you the history of the charcoal, and that it creates an environment that is not does not support the growth and reproduction of microorganisms. But I don't know if that's the case with COVID.
All right, so that means you try it out to see if it works for you.
If it works, let us know.
Charcoal, let us know, because this is what I'm understanding right now. Since it's so new, if we don't have data, then we can't really figure out like what's going on. So in order for us to really understand what works, first, I know this makes people uncomfortable, but we have to test things. We have to test things. So for everybody on this call, it's like, I didn't know anything about what you're talking about, the lemon stuff. I did think it was something to kill vampires, I don't know. That's me being ignorant. I don't know. Try it. Try it. You know what I'm saying? I say like, try it, because if we don't try things, then we don't know what works and what doesn't work, right?
And that's why, and going back to your response about testing, that's why we are testing like crazy, which means that's why our curve is still on the uphill climb, because we are testing. And as we're testing, I'm talking about the US, the Center for Disease Control, like as we're testing, we're learning more about the virus also. So that's the same thing about these folklore or these like, holistic type of treatments. we don't know. The same thing about why we're testing is because we don't know. So now we're doing all these tests. And as we test more, yes, we're on the incline, but we are also learning so much more about the disease, which can help us combat it, fight it, deal with it in a better way as time goes on.
Awesome. Now let's talk about these masks, okay? Because, okay, everybody knows, anybody that's following me, y'all know that my daughter crashed my car in Los Angeles last month. And when LA went crazy and locked down, D. Williams went, I'm going back to Georgia. Well, they called me the other day and they said, D, your car's ready. Come get your car. So I said, okay, I'll come get my car. I'm flying out to LA. I called Dr. Jones immediately. It was like, I don't have any gloves. I can't find any gloves. I don't have a mask. I don't have it. Like, what is it with these N95 masks? The mask that I have is a cloth one. Will it still protect me as I'm going on to this flight? Like, I don't know. What about these masks?
All right. So first of all, N95 masks is typically used for airborne precaution and not droplet. So those are two different type of precautions. Droplet precautions, typically what we use for influenza. That is when, and that's what we still are, the evidence is still supporting in the use for COVID is actually just a surgical mask, believe it or not. I know a lot of people are using N95 and I understand why they're using it because this virus is we're still learning so much about it. So it's, err on the side of caution is what they're doing. But as far as the masks are concerned, what we're really telling people, so it has changed, but ideally the surgical mask, we want people to leave them for people who are in high risk roles, like healthcare professionals, people who we know have a high chance of being exposed to someone who has the virus. But for lay people like you, D, you're going to travel, a mask you can wear now they're saying just put on, have a barrier, which is a filtration, a little filter between yourself and the outside environment. So if you happen to be exposed to it and you're still maintaining your social distancing, if you happen to be exposed to it, it'll be in the mask and you won't actually inhale it or breathe it in. But people need to understand why they did not want to encourage people to buy up all the masks, because that wouldn't leave anything for healthcare professionals. Wow. And even our, grocery people and, people who have to still go to work in the presence of this COVID, we do want them to have access to these masks. Now, N95 is used for airborne precautions. That's typically, I'm giving you guys some viruses that's commonly known, like TB or like regular, or like varicella or chickenpox, like we use the N95 mask. That's a stronger mask. In the hospital setting, we actually have to be fitted for that mask every 2 years. And to make sure that it fits appropriately, because it has like this plastic, and I had the mask. I was supposed to show you guys, but anyway, has a little plastic that creates a little suction on your face to make sure that the air does not exchange at the perimeters of the mask and only through the filter that you have in the front. So the problem with that, I actually had a video talking about the mask because I just wanted people to understand if you are wearing N95 and you purchase them, you are taking away from healthcare professionals who are at ground zero, and that's something to think about. And then 2, it's still not even proven that we actually need them. So you really can use just a simple mask if you want to have a mask on. And then 3, if it's not fitted appropriately and correctly, then it's like, what's the point? You have a false sense of security. So probably at this point, since our president, I'll say Dr. Fauci, who is the lead infectious disease guy who's heading this COVID task force, they're saying like, just put something over your face. And for now, that's going to work. We don't have there's some evidence that says something, having something is better than nothing, but it's not quite pertaining to COVID because remember, COVID is so new. So we're still learning about it. But hey, why not just put something on to be safe? But just know what you're doing and try not to use those that are reserved for our healthcare professionals who are at ground zero. And we know they are being exposed to it all day, every day.
All day. And I appreciate that because, D. Williams is all about creation. I was going to double mask in between. taped up. I was ready to make my own N95 mask at home to travel with. So I appreciate that.
Well, and then the glove situation, the main thing with your skin is a barrier. So if you don't have any open cuts or anything on your skin, if you're washing your hands as you should be, using your hand sanitizer, not touching on your eyes and in your mouth and in your nose, you should be okay. So that's the main thing. The gloves is, touching, people have this false sense of security. So I gave the example on my live, you get out your car, you touch on your basket, you walk in Costco, you touch everything with them gloves on, your fruit, your everything, go to the register, you got the same gloves on. That's horrible. But yet, if you didn't have gloves on, when you wipe your little basket down, you go through, your hands are generally clean. They're not sterile, but they're generally clean. And you go through, you get your stuff, get back in the car, you use your hand sanitizer, and you go on about your day. The gloves is just spreading stuff all around. When we're in the hospital, you put on our gloves and we take them off right away. Like, we do whatever we have to do with the patient, take them off, wash our hands. That's what we do. We don't use the same gloves going around all day. That's nasty. Sorry. It's really bad. It's really bad when you do that.
Ever since I heard you say that, everybody I see with the gloves on, I want to tell them, hey lady, take the gloves
off. you spreading it. And then not to mention people who are like driving, they got the gloves on, their steering wheel, now let's say if you just happen to have an abundance of gloves, which I hope you would be donating them to healthcare professionals, but let's just say you don't. And then you go to the gas station. That's an isolated situation. You get out your car, you put your gloves on, you touch your handle, pump your gas, put it back, take your gloves off, wash your hands, you get in the car. But if you go and you pump your gas and get back in your car with the same gloves on your steering wheel, that don't make sense.
Lacey said, just nasty. Just nasty.
You just have to think about things more practical, especially when we have like our, cashiers at the grocery stores and CVS and Walgreens, like they didn't sign up for it either, so they're being thrust into it. So I just want to make sure I'm doing my part and educate people on how to appropriately use gloves and masks and when they're necessary and when they're not.
Yes. Judy said, I'm about to pull my sewing machine out and make them homemade. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And they are using their cell phones with the gloves on as well.
Yeah,
what is the point?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 2 more questions I want to throw out there. Big question is, why are we only hearing about people who are passing?
I know.
Not hearing about the survivors. That is a flag on the plague. Put a 1 in the box if that's a flag on the play for you too. That's a big flag on the play for me. So why is that, Dr. Jones?
It's sensationalized. I'm going to tell you, I look at social media and I see the nurses who, are posting like all these horrific stories. That's getting shared. It's getting retweeted. It's what people want to hear, unfortunately. When the reality of it is, now, again, this research is based out of China because we just don't have enough information in the US that we have articles published yet. But about 1% of people who are infected actually succumb to coronavirus based on the research out of China. So if that still applies,
that's very low. 1%.
About 1%.
That's
yeah,
I'm sorry, but that's less than the numbers that you spoke about earlier for the MARS and the SARS.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like SARS is like 13%, and then MERS is like 30%, and Ebola is like 90%, right? So it is low, but I will say that I do understand if it was my loved one and who was in that 1%, it's high. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Oh,
so I don't try to take away from that, but I just want people to be informed so they can put things into perspective. Mm-hmm. And so it is about 1. And unfortunately, people don't talk about they survived. They just talk about that they got it. Like, oh my God, I was, you hear about that. Like, oh Lord, such and such, they got the virus. But then what? Like, people don't talk about survival, and it would be nice and refreshing because I see them who survive it, and
I'm actually seeing people who are surviving.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay. Yes, I see people.
I know that sounds question, but Dr. Jones, I promise you, when I turn on my phone, everything is about, and I promise you, the moment somebody is like, when you hear somebody say, I got the corona, it's like, oh God.
Right.
Like, playing the funeral.
Right.
So I'm like, when you're saying you've seen survivors, We don't
I've seen survivors, but I do understand that the people who suffer from this and actually die, I don't want to like dismiss, because that's huge. But it's important that people know that your chances of survival is great when it comes to this. But there are people who have horror stories, who have experienced. I also have seen people who have experienced some horrible things and even died as a result of it. So I'm not trying to, but I have seen more people who have survived it. I just want you to know. So, and it makes sense that it's, according to the research in China, that it's about 1%, but it's still a lot if you think about it. I mean, our population is over 300 million. 1% is significant. The influenza is 0.01%. So that put things into perspective, right? When the death rate,
Okay.
So it's not as bad as Ebola and it's not as bad as SARS, but it's still, now they're realizing that it's worse than the regular seasonal flu.
Wow. Huffman said, yes, we need to know and celebrate about those who are surviving the
COVID.
Celebrate those. Where is it? Y'all know I get my freaking maracas out.
Yes.
The survivors. So if you know someone who has survived COVID-19, or if you are a survivor of COVID-19, please send me a message, DM me. My email address is dwilliamsga@gmail.com. Let me know. We want to bring you on here live. And we want to celebrate you. I will go buy a cake if they let me get into the store. You know what I'm saying? I'll bring the maracas. Feel some positive energy around COVID-19. We know we've got things going on, but there's also another side of it where people are definitely living through this thing, for sure, right?
And we have to keep in mind what we focus on expands. So we're in this situation. We know it's here. So it's not like we can reverse it. We can only look forward to what we have. And if we focus on positivity and focusing on what works, we want more of that. So, Dee, the checklist, the positive COVID?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Jones. Tell them what you got.
So as I said, like, it's just so much negativity out there. I actually have been sifting through the research to find positive things. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy. But I created a list of positive COVID updates. And it just talks about the positive, meaning things that we look forward to in the future, what we're optimistic about, stories about how the rates are lower. Like I talked about, it's 1%. Stories about survivorship, about a 103-year-old lady in China who actually contracted the disease and actually survived it, completely recovered from it, and vaccines on the way, and just some of the good stuff that we can focus on and try to elevate that and bring that into our experience.
Yes, visit right now coronatransformation.com/positive updates. coronatransformation.com/positive updates so that you can get that. You see my S is flowing over. That's okay. You can see it fully at the bottom. It was long, girls. Ladies and gentlemen, it was long. Really, 2 more questions. I know, Dr. Jones, your time is so valuable here. I really appreciate you. The final question is that I keep hearing is, what can we do to boost our immune system to prevent?
Listen, and like I said earlier, the environment that we have for our soldiers to fight for us needs to be optimal, especially at this point. So the best thing I could tell you guys to do is make sure you're eating right, make sure you're exercising. I know that's a hard thing, especially when we're quarantined, but I got my butt up this morning and I did my run. I only did 2 miles, but I did something, right? I kind of was caught up too. So I got my butt out. I did my run. I'm eating my vegetables. I'm taking my little immune shots from Whole Foods. I mean, you just got to make sure that your environment is good. And so, because see, here's the thing about microorganisms a lot of people don't know. Sometimes we are exposed to microorganisms and we never know because our immune system is so strong that it has fought it off and we had no symptoms. So we never even know that we were exposed to it. That's why you have people who suffer from immune diseases that causes their immune system to be suppressed, like HIV. And, when they go through chemo and things like that, they start contracting these rare viruses and bacteria that normally normally doesn't exist in lay persons because their immune system is suppressed. So if you have a strong immune system that can fight this virus, your chances of preventing it is greater. Does it mean you're 100% you won't get it? No. Again, when we're dealing with human factor, there's always so much variability. But generally speaking, if you have a healthy environment for your soldiers to fight for you, that's your immune system, then your chances of contracting it gets lower. That's your risk for contracting it is lower. And even if you do contract it, your symptoms will be much milder than someone else who does not have a healthier internal environment.
Okay, awesome. Oya said that if you search through YouTube, Survive, there is a guy who lives in Atlanta. He talks about it on Monday. Thanks for letting us know that, Oya. We will check that out. Tayana, hey, how are you? She says, thank you. Being an RN, the public has been misinformed. You're telling the truth. So
thank you, Tayana. Thank you for your service, girl.
Service, Tayana. Kennedy says, I thought the same thing about people using gloves and then touch their face and other items. Nasty. We had Lacey. She told us, she said it just right. Just nasty. Just nasty. Trudy asked, I got to pull back up earlier. She said, now, of course, this is my client. She said, can I send you some candidates for your side business? I'm sure you need help. And she follows it. I still want to know if she needs workers. I love Trudy. Give me some love, girl. This is my
Unfortunately, my business is not considered a necessary business right now, so I had to put it on ice until all of this is over. But you can get my contact info from D. We can exchange numbers and talk after it's done because my business is gonna be here. So
hello, talking about Trudy, man. Relentless with it, yes. Y'all pay attention, staff entrepreneurs, pay attention. Hoffman says yes, and thank you, ladies, for bringing this information to us live. It's very much needed. Just being able to hear a real person that is like in our community that we can relate to. Thank you and bless you.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Let me just say, this audience was just amazing. Was it not, Dr.
Yes. Thank you guys for your questions. I'm so glad that I was able to come on here and just kind of present it in a realistic, practical way. I just feel like even me, when I'm reading through some of the stuff, I have to reread the article. I'm like, whoo, this is too much. I need to try to translate it to people so that they can understand it and what it means. Because people don't want to just know about the facts. They want to know, well, what does that mean? What do I do about it? How can I, protect my family, prevent me from getting it? So I'm glad I was able to come on here. Thank you so much.
I love that. So what I want you to do, guys, if you haven't done so already, please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you're watching on YouTube. Follow me on all platforms, but please follow Dr. Jones. And oh my gosh, Dr. Jones, I didn't put your stuff on the banner here. So you got to tell everybody where they can find you at, and I'm going to add it right here. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. My IG is sidepreneur_nurse. That's SIDEPRENEUR_nurse. Just so you guys know, I help nurses with side businesses, but I ended up being the COVID nurse. So maybe I'll change it to the COVID nurse. But anyway, that's my IG. And then my LinkedIn is Dr. Kiiyonna Jones on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
and,
I put it in the wrong place. Let me put it in the right place. Hold on, Dr.
Okay.
I'm so like,
that's okay.
I should have had this together. Let me just go. So beside, this is on Instagram. So IG, everybody go to IG right now and find Dr. Jones. Okay. SIDEPRENEUR_nurse.
Yes, that's right.
_nurse. This is on IG.
Right.
And there you go. Check her out on Instagram. And then she is also on LinkedIn. She does accept press, Essence, Forbes. And she's Dr. Kiiyonna Jones. Actually, it's her first day.
Yes.
Kiiyonna Jones.
And I'm just learning LinkedIn, y'all. So I got in trouble by D to get on it. So I'm about to start doing better with my LinkedIn because I wasn't familiar with it. So I'm working on that. But please, Dr. Kiiyonna Jones, thank you. 2 N's.
Well, look, I'm about to get this thing right. I ain't even playing around. Hold on.
Well, they can see my name right here. So it's Dr. Kiiyonna Jones, RN.
Let me just see. You know how people are, though. Let's put it there right. Okay, so make sure you connect with Dr. Jones on LinkedIn. Do not harass my Dr. Jones, but please show her some love. Please share the video. They saying done. Trudy didn't already follow. Like, please, please. She's amazing. I love you, Dr. Jones. I love you. Me and Dr. Jones are going to spend a couple of tiny minutes on IG so that her community can also experience this energy that we're sharing here of positivity. If you want to follow us, you can go and see Dr. Jones live IG. In a couple of minutes, we want to give her a chance to go to the bathroom, drink some stuff, whatever she needs to do, and then we'll chime in. And then if you are following me on IG, I'm at Your D Williams. That means YOUR. I am Your D Williams. Your D Williams. So you can check me out and you can see us live, and we'll just answer any additional questions you have. Keep things light and fun. Thank you so much, everyone.
You guys are awesome.
So awesome. And I hope you all feel more empowered. I hope now it's not so much fear in the air. You know what I'm saying? And we're ready to support each other as a community. Please stay safe. Stay vigilant. Please, did I say that right?
Diligent. Yeah.
Because I'm saying with the vigilante, what are they saying? I heard like 16 people, like last, no, you know, I'm gonna keep it real. They're like vigilant, I don't know. Stay strong, people.
Yeah.
Stay safe, stay strong. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much, guys.
Bye, everybody.